Title: The wealthy farmer is shocked when the embarrassed young girl plays the piano flawlessly. Chapter 1: The mysterious beginning. From the very first moment, an eerie silence hung over the old farmhouse, broken only by the faint rustle of leaves stirred by an unseen breeze. Strange shadows flickered across the cracked walls, as if the house itself held secrets desperate to be uncovered. Every creak of the floorboards echoed like a whispered warning. While outside, the distant howl of a lone wolf sent chills down the spine. Something was undeniably wrong, a hidden truth lurking just beneath the surface, waiting to unravel. The air grew thick with anticipation as unexplained lights danced in the darkness, and the townsfolk's hushed rumors spoke of an ancient curse that no one dared to challenge. Each strange occurrence piled upon the last, weaving a tangled web of mystery that pulled the reader deeper into the story, craving to know what sinister forces were at play. Hey, before we continue with this incredible story, I need to give you an important alert. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube removed their subscriptions without warning. Just take a quick look at the red button down below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I don't want you to miss any exclusive content coming your way. And since you're here, drop that powerful like that helps me so much with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, what city are you watching from? I love meeting every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's interact. Edward, the wealthy farmer of Ashwood, was a man who reveled in his riches. His lands stretched far and wide, the rolling fields a tapestry of green. Yet riches never brought him solace. There was a hollowness inside him, a void that seemed to expand with every passing day. He watched the townspeople from his estate, their laughter and joy a stark contrast to his lonely existence. One fateful afternoon, while he drove his high-end vehicle along the winding road, he noticed something unusual. A ragged young girl sat by the roadside, her clothes tattered and her eyes filled with despair. Edward's instincts screamed to ignore her, but curiosity gnawed at him. He rolled down the window, the wind tousling his carefully combed hair. "What do you want?" he barked, expecting nothing more than a beggar's plea. "Food," she whispered, her voice barely audible. A lump formed in his throat as he took in her fragile frame, the sun casting shadows over her gaunt face. He was on the verge of driving away when he caught a glimmer of something unusual, a peculiar urgency in her gaze that pulled him in, like moth to flame. Days later, he returned, drawn again by the invisible thread connecting them. To his astonishment, he found her, this time seated at an ancient piano in the nearby park. The sound she produced was nothing short of haunting. Each note wrapped around him, sending chills through his spine. It was as if the piano itself had come alive, and Edward felt the barriers of his wife crash against the beauty of her melody. "Who taught you to play?" he asked, mesmerized. "My father," she replied, her eyes downcast, haunted by memories. "He was a great pianist until we lost everything." In that moment, Edward realized Lily was a treasure hiding in plain sight, But shadows of his own past surged. His family's curse whispered warnings, memories of tragic loss and bitterness simmering below the surface. Just as Lily began to let her walls down, a figure emerged from the shadows. A man with slick hair and a glint of greed in his eyes. "I can make her the star she's destined to be," he promised, step by step towards Edward, a predator ready to seize his prey. Edward's heart raced. Could he risk everything to help her? The question loomed large against the backdrop of an intertwining fate. Time ticked away, and dark secrets began unraveling, revealing just how closely their pasts were linked. Would Edward confront the demons of his heritage, or would he let Lily slip away into the ambitious grasp of the rival? He could no longer ignore the urgency that pulsed between them. One thing was clear: this moment would alter the course of their lives forever. What lay ahead? An even darker mystery awaited to be revealed. As Edward's heart raced, the tension sharpened the air around him. The newcomer loomed closer, his sly grin stretching wider. "A star, Edward. All she needs is a chance I can provide," he said, each word dripping with false promise. Edward felt a sudden rage surge. How dare this intruder threaten the fragile bond he felt with Lily? But then something shifted. The gentle notes of the piano danced through the park, a haunting melody intertwined with dread. With each note, Edward felt his guarded heart flutter, connecting with something profound. The moment was electric, yet the predator's arrival felt like a dark cloud blocking the sun. "Lily," Edward said, turning to her, but she was gazing at the stranger. There was an unsettling flicker of recognition in her eyes. "You know him?" The question escaped his lips before he could hold it back. Not really, but he seems familiar," she stuttered. "Stay close to me," Edward urged, sensing a rising storm. The girl nodded, but her eyes were filled with confusion, and shadows began to creep into the edges of her expression. Before he could address the intruder, the ground trembled beneath them. A low rumble echoed through the park, shaking the leaves and sending birds flying. Edward's instincts kicked in, and he took a step back, the protective instinct surging through him. "What was that?" he shouted, glancing around. Then came the scream, sharp and piercing. A figure burst out from the tree line, panic-stricken, running towards them. It was the mayor's daughter, her face pale, eyes wild. "Edward! Lily! You have to get out of here!" "What are you talking about?" Edward shouted. The girl's sudden appearance shattered the tense standoff, igniting a wave of urgent confusion. "There's a fire! An explosion! The old factory is going up in flames!" Her breath came in frantic gasps. Edward felt the blood drain from his face. The old factory on the edge of town was filled with secrets, dark ones connected to his family. "No," he muttered, dread curling tightly in his chest. But the urgency was palpable. Everyone around was screaming, panicking. The last of Lily's resolve crumbled, and she looked up at Edward, fear etched in her delicate features. "Edward, I must go home," she trembled. "No, not now," he yelled, pulling her back. "Stay with me." Just then, the man with greed in his eyes smirked and moved closer, his gaze piercing through the chaos. "I told you she could be a star," he sneered. In that moment, a deafening boom shattered the air. Flames erupted from behind the factory. lighting the sky in a hellish glow. Edward turned, his heart pounding, instinct gripping him. He could feel the heat, an invisible force, pulling him away. Lily screamed, a sound that wrapped tightly around his heart like a vice. The stranger laughed, the sound carried away by the chaos. "Run, Edward, run while you can!" But as he looked back at Lily, her face twisted in horror. Something inside him snapped. The truth crashed down like the burning wreckage behind them. The girl he'd grown to care for so deeply was more than he realized. Suddenly, amidst the flames and fear, Edward noticed her reflection, her eyes glittering with an unfamiliar light. Not just fear, but something darker. Panic flooded through him, tightening around his throat. "Lily, what are you hiding?" For a brief instant, their eyes locked. The girl he thought he knew became a question, a puzzle he couldn't solve. Flames flickered in the background. She opened her mouth to speak, but then time froze. A shocking realization loomed, one that threatened to unravel everything. And in that moment, as the world spiraled into chaos, Edward knew he faced not just a fire, but a reckoning he never anticipated. Would he uncover the truth before it consumed them both? Edward's heart raced as he peered into Lily's eyes, searching for answers in the chaos swirling around them. She opened her mouth, her breath shaky, but the words caught like a pinched nerve in her throat. A low hum grew in the air, vibrating against his skin. He felt an invisible thread tugging at him. A deep connection that threatened to shatter under the immense weight of the moment. Then, in a staggering twist, the man with the glint of greed suddenly grabbed Lily's arm. His hold was firm, his grip imposing. "Come with me," he urged, excitement sparking in his eyes, like flames igniting dry brush. "No!" Edward shouted, lunging forward. "Let her go!" Panic clawed at his chest as he reached toward them, but the world around him spun into disarray. The roar of flames grew louder, crackling like a beast on the hunt. Lily's face contorted, fear pooling in her eyes. Yet something else flickered behind the surface. Anger? Defiance? In that horrifying moment, her demeanor shifted. Without warning, her fragile frame seemed to shimmer, just for a heartbeat, like a mirage, before reality settled back in her expression. "Lily," he whispered, confusion wrapping around him like a shroud. "What are you hiding?" The question hung in the air, heavy with uncertainty. Just then, a bone-chilling wind swept through, and the ground trembled beneath them again. Instinctively, Edward pulled Lily closer, but she remained rooted, her gaze locked on the man who now smiled wider, his intentions laced with dark promise. "It's time to show them, my dear," he said, his voice honeyed with malice. "You're far more than you think you are." And then, just like that, everything changed. Before Edward could process the threat, a blinding light erupted from Lily. She gasped, her eyes widening, and for an instant the confusion in her expression morphed into something fierce and powerful. Golden tendrils unfurled around her, illuminating the chaos, casting shadows that danced wildly against the flames. "Edward!" she cried, her voice echoing, ringing with a strength he had never heard before. "I can't control it!" The crowd around them halted, eyes transfixed by the spectacle. Murmurs rippled like waves of panic. "What's happening? Is that real?" The townsfolk reached back, instinctively terrified of the force erupting around her. "What?" Edward stumbled back, his heart hammering. She wasn't just a girl with a past. There was something ancient swirling within her, something that felt like magic. Or was it madness? The flames roared, twisted, shapes leaping into the air as if drawn to her light. The greedy man fell back, his confident smirk replaced by a look of horror. "No, you're not ready!" Lily's face twisted in agony as she fought the surge of energy engulfing her. Edward reached out, but he could feel an invisible wall pushing him away. "Lily!" he shouted, desperation bleeding into his voice. He felt helpless, tethered to a reality that was unraveling at lightning speed. With one final, agonizing scream, Lily plunged into the depths of her awakening. The explosion of light erupted, blinding everyone as an unseen force swept through the park. Edward shielded his eyes, knees locking beneath him. He felt weightless, like being whisked away on a tidal wave of uncertainty. When the brightness faded, silence fell like a heavy curtain. Edward blinked, disoriented. The crowd stood motionless, expressions frozen in awe or terror. The greedy man was gone, his laughter replaced by a haunting emptiness. He searched for Lily in the haze, dread crawling up his spine. "Where is she?" he muttered, breathless. Gathering his wits, he stumbled forward, fear twisting his insides. But as he looked around, panic clawed at him. There were no signs of her, just echoes of whispers, shadows darting in the corners of his vision. In the distance, through the lingering smoke, he spotted something shimmering, a small object lying on the ground. With trembling hands, he moved closer and, as he reached out, he realized what it was. A silver locket, engraved with familiar initials. His heart dropped, and a question burned in his mind. Had he lost her forever? Or was she still there, just beyond his grasp, waiting, hidden in a world he couldn't yet see? Somewhere deep down, Edward understood that their paths were irrevocably intertwined. This moment would change everything. But into what? As Edward knelt, heart racing, the silver locket glinted in the fading light, its surface warm and familiar against his palm. His mind swirled with desperate thoughts. But then he heard it, a soft whisper. "Edward!" His breath caught. The sound whispered through the smoke, a thread of familiarity in the throbbing darkness. Heart pounding, he looked up. "Lily?" he called, voice cracking. Did he imagine it? The crowd was still frozen, eyes darting between the shimmering light and the wreckage. Panic hung in the air, but amidst the commotion, he heard her again, closer now. "Edward, help me." There it was, unmistakable. The connection sparked to life, igniting hope where there was none. He pushed up, scrambling through the motionless crowd, searching frantically for the source of the voice. His heart raced like a runaway horse. "Where are you, Lily?" The glow flickered, deepening shadows swallowing. The last remnants of daylight. Then suddenly, blue sparks danced through the air, flaring and pulsating like a heartbeat. Edward stumbled, eyes widening as the sparks swirled together, taking shape. "No, no, no," he breathed, steps faltering as he stepped back in horror. The figure forming before him was not what he expected. It twisted and shimmered, a dark silhouette against the flames, a haunting vision of Lily, but wrong. "Lily!" he shouted, reaching out. She was there yet not there, her features unsteady and flickering like a broken light. He felt a chill run down his spine, his instincts screaming at him to retreat. "Help me!" the figure pleaded. Yet something felt off. The urgency in her voice tugged at his heart, but it sent shivers rippling through him too. And just like that, the illusion shattered. In an instant, the air filled with a piercing laugh that echoed through the park. Edward spun around, eyes searching for the source. There he stood, the man with greedy eyes, a sinister grin plastered across his face. "You think she's lost?" he taunted, gaining confidence. "You're both far too late." "You!" Edward felt rage boil within him. "What have you done to her?" The man advanced, the light flickering around them, casting shadows that writhed like living things. "I just opened the door to her true strength." He gestured dramatically, a mockery, and Edward felt rage surge through him like a wildfire. She was always something more, a hidden power all along. As if to reinforce his words, the flickering figure of Lily shifted. "Edward, I'm here, but I—" Her voice trembled, caught in a whirlwind of distress. And then, without warning, the man raised his hands, manipulating the very air around them. "You'll witness it now, my dear. A power you can't even comprehend." The ground shook, and with it, a new darkness spilled forth. Edward felt the earth tremble beneath him. Roots tearing free from their hold, a storm rising from a place left forgotten. A wave of energy rippled outward, catching Edward and the crowd in its grasp. The locket slipped from his fingers, landing silently as the chaos unfolded. "No!" he shouted, desperate to reach Lily's form even as it flickered. The ground cracked, and with one triumphant motion, the power within her surged, knitting together the broken pieces of a secret he never anticipated. But then, she vanished completely. The silence that followed was deafening. Edward stood frozen, shock coursing through him like ice water. "Lily!" he screamed into the void. The townsfolk whispered among themselves, faces twisted in disbelief. In the chaos, something clicked in Edward's mind. An unforgiving truth surfaced, ripping through him. He hadn't just found a girl with a past. He had discovered someone intertwined with a power too great to contain. And just as Edward began to understand everything, the bright light dissipated completely. The park fell into an unnatural shadow, his heart trembling in the void. Despair settled deep in his chest. The air was heavy as he sank to his knees, searching for Lily in the corners of the darkness. With that final realization, all he could wonder was, would he ever see her again? Or was this the end of a bond he had just begun to grasp? As Edward knelt, heart racing and eyes scanning the ominous shadows, he felt the weight of despair tightening around him like a vice. The crowd was still frozen, breaths held tight in disbelief. Every muted whisper echoed the frantic rhythm of his pulse. Where was Lily? Where was the light that once flickered between them? "Edward!" The voice broke through the thick silence again, drawing him like a moth to a flame. But it wasn't coming from where he thought. Panic surged within him as he turned, eyes wide, searching every corner for her shimmering form. And then it happened. The earth beneath him trembled violently. People began to scream, the ground ripping open with a deep rumble. Edward barely had a moment to process it before the ground erupted, spewing dirt and debris into the air like a blast from a cannon. "Get back!" he shouted, as he instinctively pulled away from the chaos. The trees surrounding the park swayed dangerously, branches crashing down like falling bodies. But amid this chaos, something broke through the surface, a shadow. The air seemingly twisted. A creature of darkness clawed its way out of the churning earth. Edward's breath caught in his throat as it took form. Thin, spindly legs and arms that stretched out from an elongated torso. Its eyes glowed a sickly green, piercing through the haze of smoke and fear. A woman stood behind the creature, and Edward's heart plummeted. "Martha," he gasped. The figure was unmistakable. It was Lily's mother, who had vanished years ago under mysterious circumstances. Rumors had swirled for ages, while Edward had only known sorrow from her absence. Martha? The name tumbled from his lips in disbelief. She looked older, worn by time, but her eyes held a ferocity he'd never seen before. "You're alive? Alive?" she echoed, her voice deep and cracked, as if years of silence had shrouded her spirit. "No, Edward, I've been trapped, held captive in shadows you cannot even begin to understand." The creature howled, a sound like splintering wood, shaking the air. Edward's heart raced. "What are you doing here? Where's Lily?" Martha stepped forward, her presence commanding yet horrifying. "I came to warn you, to save her." "What do you mean? Save her from what?" Panic clawed at Edward's chest. "From the truth," she shouted, pointing a trembling finger toward the monster. The townfolks shrank back, fear writ large on their faces, frozen like statues on display. "The truth that lies beneath the mask of your memories." Suddenly, Edward felt a wave of energy surging through him as shocks of realization hit like lightning. Everything, the whispers about Lily, the greedy man, and now Martha, was tangled in a net of deception he had yet to untangle. Then, in a shift that twisted his gut into knots, the creature lunged forward, its hands seized by dark tendrils. "You have to embrace your destiny, Lily. You must understand," it roared, the voice a blend of Martha's and something far more sinister. Edward's heart leapt as he felt a surge of warmth within him, recognition blooming. The locket, the twisted history. Something vital bound them all together, a legacy neither could escape. As he reached for Lily's locket, clutching it, desperately, everything shifted again. The dark tendrils unfurled, revealing not a creature, but a mirror, a reflection. In it, Edward saw not just the shadows of the people around him, but the darkest corners of his own heart, filled with regret and the truth he'd avoided. The vision changed, unveiling Lily standing within that swirling mist, powerful, radiant, but trapped. "You must face the darkness," her voice echoed, chilling and full of sorrow. And just like that, with a final surge of blinding light and unsettling laughter, the reflection shattered, leaving Edward gasping in its wake. If Martha truly had been alive all this time, what else had he yet to uncover? "Lily!" His throat tightened, breath hitching painfully as reality settled in. The moment stretched thin, pulse racing as uncertainty clawed at his heart. He had lost her once, but now the real horror awaited as he was left with an earth-shattering question. What if saving Lily meant losing everything he thought he knew? Edward's heart pounded in his chest as he stared at the chaotic aftermath of the explosion. The reflection was gone, but the memories it stirred were intoxicating and terrifying. "Lily!" he shouted again, desperation clawing at him. But the silence swallowed his voice as dark shadows enveloped the park. He felt the weight of uncertainty creeping in, but deep down, he knew he had to face whatever darkness lay ahead. Gathering strength, Edward stepped forward, calling out into the swirling smoke, "I won't lose you." Suddenly, a surge of energy rippled through the air, electrifying every nerve in his body. It felt like a wave crashing over him, and he stumbled back. The ground shook, echoing the beastly laughter of the shadow creature. The townsfolk gasped, fear evident in their panicked faces, as everyone braced for the fallout. Then, without warning, the atmosphere shifted like a storm brewing on the horizon. From the depths of the darkness ahead, a figure emerged, glimmering, radiant. "Lily!" Edward shouted. But as the light grew brighter, something felt wrong. He felt a twist in his gut. The figure stepped closer, and as the light dimmed, Edward's breath caught in his throat. The face that stared back was familiar yet transformed. It was not Lily at all, but her mother, Martha. "You shouldn't be here," Edward gasped. "I'm here to show you what you cannot see." Martha's voice resonated with authority, but something sinister lurked within. "To face your destiny, Edward." With every word, the shadow creature shifted, merging with Martha until they were one. Edward's vision blurred, heart racing, as secrets he buried deep clawed their way to the surface. The man with greedy eyes watched from the periphery, a twisted smile creeping across his lips. "Martha?" Edward whispered, disbelief washing over him like a cold wave. "You're alive?" The truth felt too heavy, too brutal to process. "Yes, but not how." "You remember?" she said, stepping into the remnants of light. "I'm not just your neighbor's missing wife. I am part of something far greater. Lily's power is awakened, but so is the truth of our heritage." His stomach churned, confusion mixed with fear. "Heritage? What do you mean?" "The curse that has bound our families is no mere tale. It's a cycle, Edward. A force that feeds on despair." The ground trembled again like a living thing, and the whispers in the air grew louder. Swirling around him, "To save her, you must understand the darkness we come from." "Lily!" he shouted, but his voice faltered, lost amidst the rising chaos. And that's when it hit him. The memories. The ones he shared with Lily. The songs. The laughter. The past uncoiled like a serpent in the grass. He stumbled back, eyes wide. "You're lying!" "No, I'm revealing." Martha's eyes glimmered dangerously, filled with a power and resolve he couldn't ignore. "You think your wealth saved you? It only bound you tighter to the curse. To me." At that moment, the creature lunged, and Edward felt the ground crack beneath him. His heart raced as the shadows crawled closer. What have you done? He gasped, panic surging through him. The truth felt suffocating, wrapping around his throat like a noose. In that explosive moment, the sky ripped apart. Flames burst forth, swirling upwards as foundations crumbled. "No!" Edward screamed, fear twisting his insides. The townsfolk screamed, and the world around him erupted into chaos. Then, amidst the pandemonium, a new voice echoed, weaving through the chaos. "You cannot run from who you are." A figure emerged from the smoke, a twisted version of Lily, her features marred but fierce. "You abandoned me, Edward. You don't understand the path we're on." His heart plummeted as realization crashed over him like a tidal wave. Lily was intertwined with a dark past he could never fathom. The truth shattered everything. Everything he thought he knew about her, about himself. The shadows closed in, a storm rising around them. Edward clenched the locket, vision blurring with tears, desperate for answers. As the chaos enveloped them, one shocking question clawed at him. Was everything they had shared built on a lie? As the dark tendrils writhed around him, Edward felt his heart racing, panic rising like a fast tide. "No, this can't be happening!" His eyes darted between the creature that towered menacingly and the flickering form of Lily, who seemed half-formed, trapped in a battle between light and shadow. "Edward," she strained, voice cracking, "you must believe me!" Her figure shimmered, revealing flashes of something beautiful beneath the chaos. He wanted to reach out, to pull her away from it all. But every time he moved closer, the shadows pushed back. The chilling echo of that moment, the ground groaned beneath them, splitting open with a powerful force. Edward stumbled as the earth erupted, throwing debris everywhere. The townsfolk recoiled, screams filling the air like a twisted symphony. He caught glimpses of terror etched on their faces, a reflection of his own anguish. Then, from the heart of the turmoil, a blinding light pierced the darkness like a bolt of lightning. Edward shielded his eyes, body rigid with fear. Suddenly, from the center of that magnificent brilliance, a figure emerged, both familiar and foreign. "Lily!" he shouted. But as the blaze faded, he realized it was not her. It was someone else entirely. A woman he barely recognized, and full of familiarity. "Who?" he gasped, hands trembling. The woman stepped closer, her features becoming clearer, and the crowd gasped. "Lily's twin," she began, eyes shimmering like stars that had been doused in darkness. "I'm Alara." Her voice was smooth, but it held the weight of secrets. "I've come to put an end to the curse." Edward's mind spun. "Twin?" He stared in disbelief. "This doesn't make sense. Where have you been?" Ilara's gaze pierced through him, unwavering. "Trapped alongside the truth that binds our families. You've been searching for Lily, but it was me all along who was meant to be by your side." "What?" The ground lurched again, shadows swirling dangerously. He felt a tightness in his chest, like being pulled under the waves of a violent sea. "I was hidden away, Edward. The cost of the curse? Our existence is tied together. And now it's time to face our shared fate." Every word felt like a punch. "What do you mean? You have to explain." Before she could respond, the greedy man laughed, his twisted expression mocking. "Do you see? You've stumbled into a web of deceit woven long ago. You've uncovered nothing but falsehoods." Edward's heart plummeted. "Shut up!" he roared, anger boiling over. "Enough!" But the darkness trembled at Alara's declaration. "You must choose, Edward. Save one sister, but at the cost of the other." "No! That's not fair!" He felt the world spinning, anger and despair battling inside him. What kind of choice is that? As if answering his fury, a tempest of energy erupted between Alara and Martha's beast, sending shockwaves rattling through the ground. Edward's world tilted on its axis. Was he truly meant to choose? In that moment of chaos, the ground cracked again, and an explosion of color burst through the darkness. It was a blinding flash that shocked everyone into silence. But it didn't last. "Edward, please," Alara cried, reaching out. "You're the key. Choose wisely." Terror pinched Edward's heart as panic gripped him tighter than ever. Lily, Alara, his choices, they intertwined like a web, threatening to consume him whole. "I can't lose either of you." Suddenly, in the pouring light, he heard it again, a familiar voice, strong and demanding. "Edward, you must remember who you are." And just like that, the world around him began to fade. The faces of everyone, including Lily and Alara, blurring, leaving only dark shadows swirling. "Stop!" he screamed, grasping desperately at straws in a storm. "What will happen to us?" But the winds of fate swept him away, plunging him into a darkness so deep he wasn't sure if he'd ever return. As the darkness closed in, Edward felt his breath catch, the air thick with uncertainty. A lingering silence enveloped him. Holding on to the locket tightly, he wavered between moving forward or retreating into the safety of his familiar past. Memories flooded back. Lily's laugh, Alara's warmth. What truth was worth this price? But the winds howled, crashing around him. The moment swelled, pulsing with pending chaos. Then something twisted inside him. "I choose!" he shouted, voice raw and desperate. "I'll choose both!" He felt a blaze erupt within, vowing to break the curse. But before he could finish his thought, a deafening crack rang through the air, reverberating in his bones. He staggered back, eyes wide. The ground seemed to shift, to breathe. The shadows swirling around him pulsed with life, pulling everyone into a vortex of chaos. Then the ground burst open, a gaping chasm that swallowed everything whole. Edward watched as figures fell, faces twisted in shock. Martha, Alara, the greedy man, every scream bellied. The horror unfolding. Gasps echoed through the disbelieving crowd, their faces a mixture of terror and awe. "Edward!" a voice cried, pulling him back. He turned to see Lily, vibrant, flickering, but her form swayed. She reached out, desperation etched on her delicate features. "Help me." He lunged forward, but the chasm seemed to widen, pulling her away. "No!" he shouted, reaching back, fingers brushing against the nothingness. Just then, a sweeping light erupted from the depths of darkness, blinding him. The truth must come first. The words thundered, a voice he knew but couldn't place. The light grew, overwhelming and bright, absorbing both dread and confusion. A brilliant flash enveloped him completely, and for a moment he hung between worlds. But then the light plunged into silence. He was thrown back, landing hard on the cold, trembling earth. When he blinked, everything changed. In the place of chaos stood a serene figure. It was accented with glimmers of light. But now, that's all it was. A silhouette, calm in a chaotic world. His heart raced as recognition washed over him. "Lily?" he whispered, voice trembling. But it was different. So different. "Edward," the figure spoke gently. But the voice was layered, echoing within his mind. "It wasn't just Lily. You have to listen. All we feared is true." "True?" he questioned, throat tight. "What are you saying? What happened?" "You love the wrong sister," the voice echoed, blending with waves of anguish. "I am the protector of the family's fate. I was the one hidden all along." The words struck him like lightning. "Hidden? What do you mean?" In an instant, the truth washed over him like a fierce storm. Lily had told him of their struggles, the family history, the curse. But standing here now, her eyes glimmering with secrets he couldn't grasp, everything shattered like glass. The bond he thought he understood was a lie. Your love for Lily. That binds us in ways you cannot comprehend. The figure stepped closer, and he saw it. Her face, twisted, haunted, marked. "I am Alara reborn. The one who should never have been lost. The one you were meant to find." "Lies," he shouted, anguish ripping through him like a blade. "No, you're lying!" But Alara's eyes held such sorrow. "I was taken. Yours was not a choice, but a fate entwined with shadows. To save you, to save us all, my time is at hand." "What?" Edward felt the world tilt, uncertainty crashing into him. How could he trust this version of her? Everything he thought about both of them was crumbling. "I'm here to teach you what you failed to learn, to show you how we can break the curse together." "What you must choose! The path diverges now, Edward." Every heart in the crowd fell silent. Eyes were wide, breaths held. He stared into her eyes, his reality slipping through. His fingers. "Choose, or lose us both." The weight hung heavy. Edward's mind raced, heart pounding, as he faced not just Alara, but fate itself. What would he decide? In that endless moment, he wondered. Would he ever reclaim the love he thought he had? Or had he stumbled into the dark web of lies, forever losing both sisters in the process? As Edward stood frozen in the moment, his heart pounding in sync with the chaos around him, Alara's shimmering form began to ripple and fade. "What? No!" he shouted, lunging forward. Desperation clawed at him, but the light enveloped her, swallowing her in a blink. Panic filled his lungs, making them heavy. "Choose!" Her voice echoed around him, each syllable a thunderclap. But just as the words left her lips, a rip in the very fabric of reality opened beside him. Edward's instinct screamed, but it was too late. The ground quaked beneath him, and time twisted like a rubber band, snapping back. Suddenly, darkness poured out of the fissure, thick and black, unfurling like a monstrous cloud. Edward stumbled back, eyes wide, heart in his throat. No, this can't be real. But it was real. Very real. From the void emerged a figure. Shrouded in shadows, an aura of malevolence radiating from their being. Edward's breath caught as they stepped into the faint light. A reflection of himself, twisted and unrecognizable, eyes shimmering with a depth of darkness. He yearned not to comprehend. "Who are you?" Edward dared to ask, voice trembling. "I am what you feel to become," the double hissed, sharp teeth glinting beneath a crooked grin. "Every decision you make births me. I'm the shadow of every lie you've told yourself." Fear wrapped around Edward's heart like a vice. "Stop this! You're not me!" he shouted, fists clenched, trying to stand tall. But the words rang hollow, echoing in a place that felt like a tomb. "Not yet." The shadow sneered, voice silky smooth. "But soon, soon you'll choose power over love. And when you do..." Before he could protest, the shadow lunged, its hand stretching outward, the darkness coiling around Edward's wrist like a serpent. In an instant, the air thickened. Edward gasped, clutching his chest, as memories surged within him. Images of his past, his greed, his family's history, and his hidden feelings for both sisters flashed before his eyes like a tragic slideshow. "What did you do?" he whispered, feeling all strength ebb away. "This isn't happening." "It is, Edward. You've always known. Embrace your truth. Embrace me." The shadow's voice echoed like a haunting melody, an invitation tinged with menace. In that moment, a bright flash from the shadows sliced through the air, startling Edward. He turned, and there stood Alara again, more solid, more vibrant, her expression a mix of defiance and pain. "You must fight him! You have the power!" But Edward felt his strength draining, pulled into a dark vacuum. "I don't understand. What does any of this mean?" "Everything," Alara shouted, desperation lacing her tone. "You're the key, Edward. You're not just a pawn in this game. You're connected to forces beyond our comprehension. You must confront what lies inside you." The shadow released a guttural laugh, a sound that reverberated in Edward's bones. "So naive, Alara. He'll never stand up to truth." In that moment, something cracked, something deep within Edward. A memory, a truth buried for too long. He saw Alara's eyes, begging him to remember. "Wait!" he shouted. "The truth! It's not just about us. It's about the curse." And all at once, a flicker sparked. Within the shadow, enough! It screamed with rage, the darkness swirling violently. An eruption of energy filled the air, and a blinding light suddenly pulsed from Alara, connecting with Edward. A warmth surged inside him. A legacy, a shared bloodline awakened. But in that flash, something massive stirred. Reality warped and twisted. The fissure yawned wider, sucking Edward in, pulling him toward the brink of oblivion. "Edward!" Alara cried, her voice stretching thin. The bond grew stronger, more intense, just as something unexpected happened. The shadow began to dissolve, retreating back into the depths it came from, but not without leaving something behind. A memory, a truth. Edward felt the walls around his heart shatter. "Edward, please!" Alara's voice echoed, the fissure spilling. Shadows across the ground. You need to decide. But before he could answer, a deafening roar tore through the air. The chasm split open wider, and out of it came the sinister form of the greedy man, the man from the past, laughing, alive, and filled with a hunger for chaos. "I'm back, Edward," he cackled, eyes shining with wicked delight. "You thought you could escape? No. You've only just begun to grapple with the truth of who you are." And as shock paralyzed Edward, the gravity of that statement hit him like a punch to the gut. Everything he thought he knew, every bond he formed, it all unraveled at the seams. "Edward!" Alara's voice cut through the chaos, urging him toward the blinding light as the shadows closed in again, threatening to consume him whole. But he remained frozen in disbelief, staring into the abyss of truth before him. What more lay ahead? Would he succumb to the demands of darkness, or would he take the leap into the unknown, a choice that would define them all? The questions echoed in the empty space, leaving Edward standing on the precipice of destiny, unknowing of what awaited him. As the shadow loomed, pulsating with dark energy, Edward fought against the fear gripping him. The echoes of Alara's desperate call fused with the crackling chaos around him. "You must choose, Edward. You cannot let him win." The greedy man's laughter sliced through the air as he launched into a menacing tirade, his eyes sparking with malice. "You think you have any power here? This is where your story ends." "No!" Edward roared, rage pouring from his core. Deep within, he felt a flicker of hope, a surge of something strong and unyielding. He remembered his connection to Lily and Alara, the unbreakable bond they shared, woven together through trials and tears. "I won't let you take them," he bellowed, his hands shaking, the locket warm against his palm. The very ground beneath him shimmered, vibrating with latent energy, burrowing into the dark tendrils choking his thoughts. Just then, a blinding flash erupted from above, shooting down like a divine arrow. Ilara's spirit glowed fiercely, and the shadows recoiled, shrieking as they were forced back. "This is your moment, Edward. Embrace it." With every ounce of strength, he surged forward, channeling the light that pulsed through him. "I choose love. I choose you both." The words spilled forth, igniting the air around him, exploding into brilliance. Flames danced wildly as the shadows shattered, losing their grip on the world. The greedy man's laughter turned to a gasp, fear gripping his features as the light broke the curse binding them. "No, this is impossible!" But it was too late. Edward felt the rush of energy envelop him as the light expanded, pushing them back, cleansing the darkness. The ground trembled. The reality unraveled, and with one final blast, everything erupted into a cascade of colors. In that heart-stopping moment, time slowed. Edward glanced around, witnessing the townsfolk, witnessing their salvation, awe written across their faces. And then it all faded, replaced by an ethereal calm. When he opened his eyes, the shadows had vanished. Ilara stood before him, radiant and whole. "You did it," she whispered, tears glistening like stars in the night sky. "You saved us." But Edward's gaze darted around, searching. "Lily, "Where's Lily?" "Here," came a familiar soft voice. Edward turned, and there she was, shimmering with vibrant energy, her smile bright. "You found me. Together, we're free." Relief washed over him, and for the first time, in what felt like eternity, he felt warmth envelop him, a sense of completeness. "You're safe," he murmured, reaching out to clasp her hand tightly. But the winds shifted, and the shadow of the greedy man lingered like a ghost, still hanging in the corners of the town's collective memory. Ilara and Lily exchanged glances, understanding mixed with caution. "The battle is won, but the echoes of the curse remain," Ilara stated gravely. "We must learn from this truth, together." Edward nodded, determination solidifying inside him. "We will break that cycle. No more shadows. We forge our own path from now on." As they stood together, united against whatever darkness might come, the warmth of truth and love enveloped them. The townsfolk stirred around them, voices rising in relief and joy. With hands held tightly, they stood tall like a sturdy tree bracing against the winds, ready to face a future together, a future unwritten but filled with promise. And as the sky turned to gold above them, a sense of peace blanketed the town, whispers of hope flowing through the air like a gentle breeze. But wait, before you go, listen closely. Subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss upcoming exclusive stories that will blow your mind. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and help us grow. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about the ending. And don't wait another second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to know this conclusion. You need to show your support. This is the moment to join our community and dive deeper into these tales. And if you like stories about farmers, about everyday life on the farm, and want to know what really happens in the daily lives of the biggest farmers in the world, the hidden stories of the richest owners, and the secrets of the farm girls that the media doesn't reveal, check out our virtual book with the most famous and secret stories from the farm. Click on the first link in the video comments and get yours now. You need to watch this now.